Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys one of my favorite variants of the Trickstar deck. So without saying too much, let's just go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off, of course, you run 3 copies of Trickstar Cantina. Cantina on summon allows you to be able to search out any of your Trickstar cards, which is really good, as well as, of course, having the effect of if your opponent activates a spell or trap card. While this card is on the field, you can inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent. All of these burn effects are mandatory, but obviously, why wouldn't you want to burn your opponent? Continuing on, we'll run 3 copies of Trickstar Licorice. Trickstar Licorice is actually really powerful, especially in this build. That's why I opted to run 3 instead of my usual 2. So this card says quick effect. You reveal this card in hand, target 1 Trickstar monster on your field, bounce that card back to your hand, but you special summon this card first. So you special summon, then bounce. However, one thing that I really like about this card is, let's say you have multiple in your hand, you can just activate Licorice, target Cantina, and because it does not bounce until after the special summon, you can chain multiple Licorice to each other to then special summon, bounce Cantina, and you still get out your other Licorices. I've actually been able to do so much damage to my opponents just by using this alone. Just because you get to burn 200 points of damage for each time your opponent adds a card or cards to their hands. So if they draw a card for turn, that's 200 points of damage. Or if they activate a card or have to, for some reason, draw 6 cards, which will show how you force that later on in the video, then they'll take 200 points for each card. So that's it for the Trickstar monsters with burning effects. Continuing on, we do run for the 1-ofs, 1 copy of Corbane and 1 copy of Lilybell. Corbane is just an honest for the deck, being able to discard this card, and then you can double the original attack of one of your Trickstar monsters. However, this card also allows you to just special summon this card if you control only Trickstar monsters or no monsters at all. And then Lilybell is actually really powerful in this deck, just being able to attack your opponent directly, and then if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add a Trickstar card from your graveyard to your hand. Also, a really good thing about Lilybell is that if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can then just special summon this card to the field once per turn. So, of course, the main thing for that is you can search it off of your Cantina to special summon it, or even for later turns, you could always just normal summon Lilybell, then go into battle phase attack, then tag out with the Licorice, and then summon it right back out, still in the battle phase because that special summon is a quick effect. Continuing on, of course, I do run 1 copy of Yatagarasu as well as 1 copy of Lady of the Lake. Lady of the Lake is a small world bridge to be able to get into Yatagarasu, as well as, of course, your 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird, just using any of your Trickstar monsters, because all of your Trickstar monsters are lights, so you have the lights, and then you can, of course, search out the level 1 for Droll and Lockbird, or 200 attack for Yatagarasu. Also, to wrap up the hand traps, we do, of course, run 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I still think that Ash is one of the better hand traps, even though it is a 1-for-1 trade, there are some times where that just comes up way more frequently than any other hand traps. But continuing on, we do run 3 copies of Trickstar Light Stage. Light Stage just says that when this card is activated, you can add 1 Trickstar monster from your deck to your hand. Then the second effect says that once per turn, you can target 1 set card in your opponent's spell and trap zone, and then while this card is up on the field until the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot activate that card until the end phase, and then they must activate it or that card is destroyed, which is just really powerful to be able to lock out your opponent's card and then possibly destroy it in the end phase. However, the main reason why I love this card so much is this card has a effect that just says that anytime a Trickstar card burns your opponent, burn for 200 more. So therefore, if you have your copy of Licorice on the field, when your opponent draws for turn, they're going to take 200, and they're going to take 200 again from Light Stage, which this pairs really well with one of the cards that you'll see in just a moment. Of course, we do run the Terraforming to act as our 4th copy of Light Stage. And of course, for the spice that I was just telling you guys about, to pair with the Light Stage, we do run 3 copies of Dark Room of Nightmare. This card is absolutely insane in this build. So what this card does is each time you inflict damage to your opponent by card effects, so of course any of your Trickstar monsters and of course Light Stage, you can then inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent. So the way that this interacts is, let's go ahead and get out our Light Stage and our Licorice. So with just these 3 cards on your field, you're going to have Licorice activate, burning your opponent. then Light Stage on resolution of the Licorice, and then Dark Room of Nightmare will then trigger twice. So this is 200, 200, 300, 300 for a total of 1,000 life points total just off of these 3 cards, which is absolutely insane. Then continuing on, I do own 1 copy of Chain Strike. Chain Strike just says that activate this card only as a Chain Link 2 or higher. Then you can inflict 400 points of damage to your opponent times the Chain Link number of this card. So therefore, if you activate this as a Chain Link 2, it's going to inflict 400 points of damage for each of the Chain Links. So that's 800. Or if you can even get to like Chain Link 5 or 6, this card just does absolutely insane damage. Which, of course, using the Dark Room of Nightmare, we can easily get to that kind of levels of damage. Continuing on, for consistency, we do run 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This deck really doesn't need its extra deck, so I would say that if you can't afford Pot of Prosperity, Pot of Extravagance is still a really good option in this deck. Continuing on, as I said, we do run 3 copies of Small World because, as I said, any of your Trickstar monsters, if you reveal that in hand and then you can reveal Lady of the Lake from the deck, then, of course, you can search out Yata-Garasu or Drone Lockbird, which Drone Lockbird is just really good to be able to Droll Reincarnation Lock your opponent, so that way they don't have a hand if you can't set up just a ton of burn damage. This deck is just so much fun to play. Continuing on to the traps, we do actually run a decent amount of traps. Of course, we do run 3 copies of Reincarnation, just banish our opponent's hand, make them draw the same number. But we also run 3 copies of Disturbance Strategy. This card does the same thing as Reincarnation, however, it shuffles it back into the deck, draw the same number. And then I run 2 copies of Present Card. Only reason why I run 2 copies of Present Card instead of 3 is because this card makes your opponent discard their entire hand and then draw 5 cards. So therefore, not only are they getting cards in the graveyard that they might need in the grave, but they're also drawing the 5 cards instead of 6 or whatever. However, this card is really good, especially for later games, just being able to reset your opponent's hands to set up for your Disturbance Strategy or Reincarnation. It's just a pretty decent card, but I still think that you should only run 2 copies. And then to wrap it up, we do run 2 copies of Trap Trick, because pretty much as long as Trap Trick is the last trap you activate, then you can activate the card you set. So let's say you have, let's just say you have Disturbance Strategy, Reincarnation, and Trap Trick. You can literally just activate it in the order of Reincarnation, and then Disturbance Strategy, and then later in the turn after resolving that, you can still activate Trap Trick to get you into either Disturbance Strategy, Reincarnation, and Present Card, and you'll still be able to activate this card, which is just really, really good, just to be able to inflict more damage using your Licorice. So that's going to be it for the main deck. Really, really simple. Of course, I'm going to quickly go over just a few cards in the side deck to kind of prepare you guys for the extra deck. Of course, because we don't really need our extra deck, we do run 3 copies of Waking the Dragon, as well as 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer. Honestly, these cards are just really good because Waking the Dragon just says that this leaves the field by your opponent's card effect. You can pretty much just special summon any monster from your deck, or any monster from your extra deck. And then Ultimate Slayer, of course, just target 1 extra deck monster your opponent controls, send a card from your extra deck with the same type, and then shuffle that card back into the deck, which is just really, really good, just to be able to clear out your opponent's difficult boss monsters. Of course, I also run the 3rd copy of Trap Trick, just to be able to get into your Waking the Dragons if your opponent activates something like Harpy's Feather Duster or Lightning Storm Call Back Row. You can just activate Trap Trick, set Waking the Dragon from your deck, and then your opponent just kind of screwed themselves over with that. So that's it for what we're going to go over for the side deck. Of course, side deck is up to you guys. However, I figured I just wanted to kind of explain that before we jump into the extra deck. Starting off with the extra deck, we of course run 2 copies of Holly Angel. Holly Angel just says that each time a Trickstar monster is normally special summoned in a zone that this card points to, inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent. Then this card also protects any of your Trickstar monsters that it's pointing to, and it also says that if your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar monster effect, this card gains attack equal to the damage that they took until the end of the turn. That is not at once per turn, so you can just constantly keep building this up. Honestly, this card is not nearly as reliable as, in my opinion, Trickstar Devardis. Devardis just says that whenever this card is special summoned, inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent, and then anytime that they special summon a monster, inflict 200 more points of damage. So therefore, you can just set this up, and then your opponent, if they keep special summoning, they will end up burning themselves to death, which is just really funny in this deck. But continuing on for the Waking the Dragon targets, we do run 2 copies of The Last Warrior from Another Planet. This card is funny because it just says that if this card is special summoned, destroy all other monsters you control, and then neither player can summon monsters. So literally, if you just summon this because your opponent popped your stuff, you just get rid of all of your cards, yes. However, it's a 2350 attack monster, and neither player can special summon, so this card is just really funny. Continuing on, we do run 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This is just mainly in here for the negation, as well as being able to just boost its own attack points. You don't get the pops with this card because you're not actually fusing it, but still just having a boss monster that's really hard to get over is just really fun to do it against your opponent. Continuing on, we do run 1 copy of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. I just like giving options. This card does allow you to pop 1 card once per turn, and it's a 4500 attack monster. It's just funny. Honestly, this extra deck is just funny. We run the Ray Raptor Ultimate Falcon because this card just says that it's unaffected by opponent's card effects, and it's 3500 attack. I just like running these because it's just, I want to find a way to annoy the opponent as much as possible with this deck. Continuing on into the Ultimate Slayer's target, we do run 1 copy of Tri Brigade Ferrigine the Baron Blossom. This card just says that if it sits in the graveyard, draw 2 cards and then put 1 card back into your deck. So therefore this can help get rid of any bricks that you might have drawn into, like your Lady of the Lake, or just anything like that. Then we do run 1 copy of Paleozoic Chemical Raster. This card says that if any of your traps were to be destroyed, you can just banish this card to either protect from like a card that can just pop a card, or even it can protect a widespread destruction effect like Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, what have you. Then continuing on for the fusions, we do run 1 copy of Elder Entity and Tisk, because this card just says if it's into the graveyard, you can pop another monster your opponent controls. And then we run 1 copy of Garura just to be able to draw an additional card. Then to wrap up the extra deck, we do run 1 copy of Cypherm Lord Omega, as well as 1 copy of Meteorologic Aggregator. I don't actually have a copy of the card, so we're just going to put it right here on the screen for you guys to read if you want. But pretty much, the Cypherm Lord Omega will just allow you to target 1 other card in your graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card back into the deck, which is just really good. Just to be able to allow you to recycle your other cards. And Aggregator allows you to pretty much just target a monster on the field and then end permanent until the end of the turn. It's just to be able to give you some more monster negations. But yeah guys, so that's going to be about it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like. Comment down below what you guys think of the deck profile, as well as if you guys are going to try this deck out. I find this deck really fun, especially to try to just annoy your opponents. But yeah, with that being said guys, that's going to be about it. See ya.